In this video, we're going to talk about different kinds of yarn, and we're going to learn how to make a yarn ball. So first of all, there are different kinds of yarn you could use. The one you'll see most often is something like this. It's called a size 4 yarn, and it's made out of acrylic, and you can make all kinds of things out of it, clothes or blankets or whatever. This is usually what I make blankets out of. There's also cotton yarn. Cotton yarn is good for anything that you are going to get wet or that's going to get hot. Like if you're going to make a coaster out of it, or a swimsuit cover-up, or a washcloth, or something, pot holders, something that you're going to get hot. The reason you don't want to use acrylic for that is that it actually has plastic inside of it. It's partly made out of plastic, and if you get it too hot, it'll melt, and that's not what you want. But cotton isn't going to melt for you. The yarn that I gave you is cotton, because I thought you might want to make a coaster, a washcloth, or something like that. There's also other kinds of yarn, like this. This is made out of polyester. You call it chenille. Sometimes it's very soft. And it's good for, you can make blankets out of it, or stuffed animals, or anything like that that you want to be nice and soft. And if you notice, these different kinds of yarn, also, some of them are thicker and some of them are thinner. Each yarn has a number that goes with it for how thick it is. And like I said, the standard one is size 4. And sometimes you'll also see it called either Aran or worsted weight or something like that. That's the standard one. You can get smaller or bigger weight. Now, interestingly enough, when it's made out of different materials, sometimes the sizes will actually be different. They won't quite work the same. So for example, this one is also a size 4, but it's a lot thinner than this one. You just have to kind of watch and see. But you can have a size 3, which is a little bit smaller. It's called sport weight. A lot of times I like to make sweaters or clothes out of this, because if you make it out of the Aran or the worsted weight, sometimes it gets to be too thick and bulky. You could also have something even smaller. This is a size 2 weight, which I think it could be called either maybe sock yarn or fingering, something like that. And it's really thin. And of course, I showed you the chenille one. This one is a size 7. It is really thick. So, the other thing you need to know is about hooks. You have different hooks that are different sizes based on the yarn you're using. Each yarn is going to have a label that tells you a lot of things about it. It's going to give you information about, let's see if I can find that information. You see here, there's a little size. It says size 4. So this is telling you this is a size 4 yarn. But it also tells you what size of knitting or crocheting needles you'll need. This one says it uses a size 5.5. Usually I go down a size or 2. It just kind of depends. If you use the wrong hook size, your work might be bigger or smaller than you want it to be, or it might be harder to work with. Now this one, a lot of times I'll use a size 4.5, but anywhere around there will work. Now, you can get yarn in different types of containers. The one you'll see most often is called a skein. And with a skein, it's kind of wound up in different ways. The thing I like about a skein is that you usually have a center pull, and you just pull the yarn from there and it just keeps coming out. And that makes it easy to work with. But the problem is sometimes it gets tangled up, and once it gets to the end of the yarn, there's a lot of tangles and it makes it hard to work with. So sometimes you want to wind it up into something else. One thing you can wind it up into is what's called a cake. I don't know why it's called a cake. You don't want to eat it. Now with a cake, it also has this nice little center pool, and it's flat so it can sit there. So it doesn't move when you're pulling the yarn out of it, which is something I really like. But the thing that I know you really like is a yarn ball. And so today I'm going to teach you how to make a yarn ball. So first of all, you want to take a skein or a cake or whatever else the yarn is in, and you want to find one of the ends. The easiest is to find the center pull end because it'll just come out easily. But if you can't find that, you can take the yarn label off and look for the other end. This one is tucked in there too. And you can just kind of pull it that way. But since I have a skein where I can find the center pull, I'm going to use that. So let me find the end of this yarn. It's going to take me a little bit because I had actually used this to practice on something that I'm making for Hannah for her birthday. But I decided that this wasn't quite the right color. I wanted a darker color, like a brown. Okay, so now that you found your end, how you want to start is you want to drape it over 2 fingers and kind of hold the end with your thumb. And now you're just going to wrap it over those 2 fingers about 15, 20 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And then you're going to pull it off those fingers. So you have this like little loop with several different loops on it. And you want to turn it like this. So you can see the hole and you can see all of that and you can kind of squish it together. But you want to keep all of those loops kind of together. And now we start wrapping. So wrap around there about 10 times or so. And then you're going to rotate it and wrap. This is the hardest part. Maybe not all the way to the side, maybe like halfway. And start wrapping it again and do another 5 or 10 times around. And then you're going to turn it again and keep wrapping. Try to keep it so that it doesn't go off to the side. And then turn it again and keep wrapping. And then turn it again, keep wrapping. And now you just keep doing this until you get to the end of your skein. I like to try to go to places where it's kind of, there's not a whole lot of yarn there. So this is kind of like a hole, so I try to cover that up. And just trying to make it kind of like a circle. So just keep turning it a little at a time and do a few wraps. You'll do more wraps at the beginning just to get it started. But as you go, you start turning it faster and sooner with only a few wraps. And as you can see how I'm turning this a little at a time and wrapping from the back to the front over and over and over again, and then turning again and wrapping and turning again and wrapping, and it gets, I got some hair in there. That happens when you have long hair. Your hair gets into everything and it's very annoying. Okay, and then turn it again and keep wrapping and just keep going. And as you can see, it's already looking like a little tiny ball. And you can just do this however you want, however you think looks good. If you think it looks good to have just a few wraps before you turn, do that. If you prefer to have like 10 wraps before you turn, do that. This is an easy thing to do. Just whatever works for you. Okay, I am going to pause and keep on working. And if I come into a problem, if my yarn gets twisted or something, I will show you how to deal with it. All right, I'm nearing the end of my ball here. This was a really nice skein. I didn't have anything I needed to try to well, I'm talking too soon. I didn't have any knots in it. But as you can see, as the ball gets bigger, there's a lot more room. So you're gonna be turning a lot. Oh, look, there's a knot. If it kind of knots up like this, what you wanna do is just try to pull it out. This one came out nicely. If it doesn't come out nicely, the last thing you wanna do is pull real hard, because then you'll make that knot worse. You want to try to find one of the ends and just start going through until you find the knot, and then you can kind of take it apart. So if I'm looking at this, it looks like it's gonna knot up there. So I follow that yarn and see it's going that way, and I'm just gonna pull it out that end. So that takes care of the knot. Then it's not knotted anymore. And then I can go back to winding my ball. But as I was saying, there's more area, so you're probably gonna be turning it farther a lot more often, and maybe have fewer wraps before you turn it. And here I've come to the very end, and how you end it is kind of pull it tight. You find the last weave that you did, or the last couple of times around that you did. Whoa, see, it came apart a little bit. I gotta fix that. Okay, so just wrap it again if it comes apart like that. Find the last few times around, and you're just gonna tuck this end underneath those last few times around, and then you have a yarn ball.